Guys, the trilogy is going down this weekend. Canelo and Triple G will be stepping into the ring for the third time this Saturday live from Las Vegas. The first fight was ruled a draw. The second bout went to Canelo. You gotta wait until the final bell. But up until then, thanks to our show sponsor, DraftKings Sportsbook, new players will be able to get an instant win. New customers, all you have to do, go to DraftKings, bet $5 on either fighter. You will instantly get $200 in free bets. That's right, DraftKings is giving all new customers $200 in free bets when they place any wager of $5 or more on either athlete to win Saturday night. If sports betting is not available in your state, you're free to play DraftKings Daily Fantasy, where they've been innovating even more ways to win cash. DraftKings has been around for a while, so you know your funds are safe. You can withdraw your cash anytime and from anywhere that you want. DraftKings has so many ways to make watching sports more exciting. So go download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now. New customers use promo code Sonnen and receive $200 in free bets instantly when placing a $5 wager on either fighter to win. That's promo code Sonnen only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Chimaev in the weight cut, story that won't seem to go away. There's a conspiracy out there somewhere that it was better for the card, and there was a talk that the doctor forced the weight cut to stop. There was a mention that once the weight was missed of Chimaev, a matchup with Diaz can no longer take place per the rules of the commission, who was not forced to rule on it, but they never asked because the rules were clear. Now, none of those words are mine, and let's just agree that we're going to move on. Let's just agree that these words have been said, and let's just agree that we're going to move on, because I do think that we have, like any time with any athlete, a situation of what do we do next. I'm a believer. This is the coach in me. I work with kids. The coach in me says if you're trying to make a weight class and you fail, you're too heavy, the weigh-in day has come. You knew about it. You had your choice of weights. You had preparation for it. You got no illness, no injury, nothing threw you off. You did everything that you knew to do, and you missed that weight. The coach in me, with my teams I've worked with, you are now no longer that weight. You are now up a weight. And there's drastic situations where that can't absolutely be true. Again, I come from the wrestling world. So you got to have a wrestle off. You got a team, let's call it 10 spots for simple math. You want to put your best guy on the mat in every single weight class. Well, let's say you have a hammer, and this happens all the time. You got an absolute stud. He's got to be here because an even bigger stud is his teammate who's one weight up. So if he goes and misses it, and we all go, well, you're in this weight class, and now you got a guy who's potentially a state champion. He just coincidentally can't beat the same guy in his room. And this is real. I'll personalize it. I was an NCAA All-American. I lost the wrestle-off that year. I wasn't even varsity. Troy Hughes was. I wasn't even varsity. Troy ended up getting hurt. It ends up being my spot. And that's how far I was able to go with it. But you do see that a lot. To where, hey, that weight, it does matter. Before we throw our hands up, we got to sit down real analytically and look at what we did and why we missed it. Right? Losing weight, gaining weight, this isn't an overly complicated concept. It's calories in to calories out. Cutting weight. And I know that you guys will hear these terms and they all mean the same thing. Cutting weight, losing weight, dieting, they all mean the same thing. No, they don't. And nobody on earth outside of combat athletes, the one recognized profession in the world where your boss is able to weigh you in, not only weigh you in, he will tell the world what you weigh. And if he doesn't like what you weighed in at, you don't get to go to work. Could you imagine that in any field? I mean, could you even imagine the words that I just said to you? You would have a lawsuit so fast your head would spin. People in PR's mind, they would explode. I mean, it's a very rare thing. But now we're not just talking about calories in to calories out. We're not just talking about dieting. We're not just talking about losing weight. You then have a whole nother factor that you will have to trust from me when I tell you, because I'm one of that 1/10 of the population who's ever done it. Actually cut weight. Now, when you cut weight, this is something very personal to you. And by the time you are a professional, you will for sure have that down. For example, guys, I can lose 8 pounds in 90 minutes. For some of you, whoa, that was really impressive, Chael. I'd love to know your secrets. But I can lose 8 pounds in 90 minutes. And that's a for sure. I could do 8.5. I could do 9. There's some conditions where that would go a little bit further. But for sure, if I've got to count on it, I will get off 8 pounds in 90 minutes. I can lose 1/10 of a pound every minute. So if I'm 1 pound over, I will need 10 minutes to lose 1 pound. This is when I'm fully hydrated. There's something known as floating weight. Have you guys ever hear that? Well, I'll go to bed, I'll float 2 pounds. Just so you understand, your metabolism isn't doing something weird. There's not some Santa Claus in the weight world that comes and removes fat and or muscle from your body. You're talking about urination. That's it. If you're a guy that sleeps for 6 hours, you're not a guy who's lost 3 pounds, that floated 3 pounds. If you're a guy that lays in bed for 11 or 12 hours, you might get that 2.5 pounds, but we're only talking about one thing, which is urination. If you are cutting weight, one of these very rare fields, if you're cutting weight and you then attempt to go to bed, first off, you're going to toss and turn. You're probably going to get 0 sleep. When you're dehydrated to do anything, to do any focus, to get comfort, enough to relax, enough to fall asleep is rare. But all the same, if you go to bed and you think, or somebody within your team told you, hey, you'll probably float 2 pounds. Shoot, 3 weeks ago, remember when I stayed the night at your house, you floated 2 pounds. Well, it's totally different because you're talking about urination. And a guy that's dehydrated because of the process of cutting weight is not going to urinate any. 0, not 1/10 of a pound. But you would know these things about yourself. You'll see people miss weight by 5 pounds. You'll see Charles Oliveira missed weight by 1/2 pound. Now, moreover, if we're just to stay on Charles Oliveira, because maybe that was the one that you were both exposed to, just to remind you how that worked. The window opens at 9, it closes at 11. Oliveira was there at 9. I don't know what exact, but he was in there 9, 9:12, 9:13 in the morning. He was there right in the beginning. He then has essentially 2 hours. He was 1/2 pound over. In those 2 hours, when he came back closer to 11, he's still 1/2 pound over. And a lot of people had a problem with that. Chael Sonnen just told you that Chael Sonnen can lose 8 pounds in 90 minutes. How could Charles Oliveira, with millions of dollars, a reputation, and a championship on the line, not lose 1/2 pound in 120 minutes? How? Well, guys, Charles Oliveira didn't have to lose 1/2 pound. Just the same as Chimaev did not have to lose 7 pounds, okay? Charles Oliveira had to lose another 1/2 pound. Chimaev had to lose another 7 pounds. That's a completely different conversation. And just to come back to myself, fully hydrated, feeling good, 90 minutes, 8 pounds, goodbye. I could take those same 90 minutes, 15 hours later, where I'm sucked and drained out, those same 90 minutes, and be in the same spot as Oliveira, where I can't get off 1/2 pound. At some point, your body is going to quit giving that. So Chimaev in this weight cut story, he knows his body the same as I do. And he knows what exercises he likes to do to cut weight. He talked about running for an hour and a half. Talked about a stationary bike. He talked about a sauna. Now, I could step in there and give some massive corrections to each. Mike Dolce would have massive problems with the way that he cut weight. But either way, if this is what he's used to, let's not judge him. Here's what I'm speaking about. He also has his 8 pounds in 90 minutes, whatever his might be. His might be 6 pounds and he needs 2 hours. But he's got that same number and that same equation I just threw at you. And you know how many times you can do that for. And you know how much you're going to float overnight. You know all of these things about yourself to a masterful extent. To the point that when you show up on fight week, you could be 17 pounds over, you could be 22 pounds over, whatever your number is, but you know it. Let's say that your number is on fight week. When I show up, whatever it is I'm going to do, whatever apparatuses, whatever exercising, whatever floating I'm going to count on, I can get 20 pounds off between Tuesday when I landed and Friday at 9 a.m. where the finish line is. I can do 20 pounds. If you show up and you're 29 pounds over, there's no point in starting that process. If you know your number between here and here, and everybody does, you're a professional, you've been doing this your whole life, you've been doing this your whole career. If you know that your number is 20 pounds, but you have 29, you see that on the front end, this simply isn't going to happen. That's the spot that Chimaev found himself. Michael came out real open and just told us about it. He said, you know what? They moved the date of this fight. That was our biggest problem. Wasn't where we started at. It wasn't what we did in preparation. It's that finish line isn't where we had planned for it to be. It had moved on us. It moved back in. And when we started, we were just too heavy. You know, you might not like that answer. Michael just told you the truth. There was nothing complex. There was no conspiracy here. It was as simple as that. It's calories in to calories out. When you get to the weight cut process, you're now talking about sweat out specifically versus hours you have to do it. That's it. And Michael told the truth, which is when we started this, we were too heavy. I'll be very curious where Chimaev goes from here. Darren Till spoke about it, said 170. And he'll do it and he'll do it comfortably. And that's true. You don't always have to go to Chael's rule that if you miss this weight, you're no longer this weight. You don't always. Sometimes there are reasons. Reasons and excuses, I know they sound very close, but if we put in conjunction what Michael said, where the finish line was just sooner than we planned for it to be, and everything was going great. Look, Chimaev may be telling a different story, but you're still talking about a guy changing his lifestyle and changing his physiology. It's very uncomfortable. The guys who you've seen retire from this sport, not the ones where the end came, not where a contract could no longer be given or promoted and it wanted, the guys who by choice walked away from their sport, are retiring for reasons that you don't know. It's not just that the performance or the outcome isn't what they want. It's what it entails to even get to that performance and that outcome. It's the early mornings, it's the late night. It's beating the scale the day before. I don't want to do this anymore. It's not just I don't have the ability to block and throw back. I don't want to be on that hill at 6 a.m. anymore. I don't want 2 and 3 a day. I don't want the travel. There's just a number of things that go into it. And I think for a young man like Chimaev to change your lifestyle to be at 170 pounds, for what reason? And if the response is going to be because that's where he can win a championship, I'll listen. It's just not the response that I've heard from day one. From day one, I've heard he can also win a championship at 85. And he can also win a championship at 205. This is what I've heard. I've never heard anybody flinch on this. That includes you guys who love him and are big believers. That belt is gold and 12 pounds at 170 pounds, but it's gold and 12 pounds at 185 pounds. If you have a different path, if this is your journey and this is where you need to be, I'll listen. That's just not the answer that's ever been given. Chimaev will make this choice. He will make this choice absent of my opinion. But I hope that when he decides this, I hope that he does take into consideration that life is better, it's more enjoyable. From a professional standpoint, I must meet these numbers. And as a 25, could even be 26 by now, year young man, Chimaev should be, and according to the scale is, a middleweight.